Earlier today, volunteer searchers telling a local outlet that they found a black glove like the one the suspect was wearing less than a mile from Nancy's home. That glove appeared to have blood on it, meaning more possible DNA to test. That comes as Nancy's neighbors and friends put handwritten signs and flowers at her home to show support while the community desperately hopes she comes back safely. Others are speculating about what may have happened, including former FBI Special Agent Jonathan Gilliam, who joined me earlier this week to share his theory. He believes that because the kidnapper would have had only 2 hours to move Nancy before sunrise, she must be in this area. Now, this is a very large area, hundreds of miles here. The suspect would have had enough time to get to the Mexican border, Phoenix, or at least 2 Native American reservations. Joining us now, Jonathan Gilliam, former FBI Special Agent and former U.S. Navy SEAL, and Brian Dean Wright, former CIA officer and host of the Wright Report podcast. Jonathan, great to see you. Thank you so much for coming back on tonight. So just based on what we have seen over the past couple of days and the people that you've talked to, are you still confident in your theory that Nancy is within 2 hours of your home? Or have you seen or talked to people about maybe her being moved?
Well, I think it's always possible, Katie, that she was moved, but I think that she was probably stored somewhere or she was discarded if she was deceased within that 2 hour range. Because if she basically they didn't want to move when the sun came up. I think anybody who was not prepared for her to be injured badly enough where she was bleeding, or that it got delayed because they were there for 40 minutes, would probably want to get to a point where they could not be seen before the sun comes up. So if that's the case and she was moved, then people may have seen something and they could go there and then test for DNA. That's been my thing all along, is that, yes, perhaps she's there, but perhaps she was there and there would be DNA somewhere. And I really don't appreciate the sheriff coming out and telling people, if you don't have proof, don't call in. If it's just an idea, don't call in, because people, they could have a catalog system where you call in and say, do you have an idea? Do you have evidence? Idea? Okay, talk to this person. And then they can catalog that. It may be nothing, but there may be something. I just would not push any of that away.
Yeah, absolutely, especially since it seems like we're not getting a lot of information. There are 2 Native American reservations within 2 hours of Nancy's home. Can you tell us about the relationship that the FBI has with those jurisdictions? It's a different system than on a state highway or on federal property. They have their own sovereignty and they have their own law enforcement. The FBI does work with them in a number of ways, but does it make it more difficult if she were to be taken to one of these reservations?
Well, I think the FBI has a good working relationship. I know several people who worked on the reservations here and that are with the FBI, and they do have a working relationship. There's always, just like any local law enforcement, there could be distrust with the federal government and with federal law enforcement. But I think for the most part, if the FBI has a request and they believe that there might be something in a location, they pretty much entertain those ideas, and they do have a good working relationship. So I'm not worried if she was taken to a reservation and it leads to that location. I'm pretty sure that they would cooperate pretty well.
Very interesting. Glad to hear that. Let's bring in now Brian Dean Wright. He's with us, former CIA officer. He has lots of experience with intelligence, obviously, given his past profession. Brian, just based on what you've been seeing in the theories in the investigation here, and with the sheriff, as Jonathan just pointed out, saying that we don't want the certain kinds of information, what is your assessment there from Tucson, which is where you are?
Yeah, look, we continue in this community to look at our Pima County Sheriff's Department, the local PD, as really just an embarrassment, not only for us and most importantly for the family dealing with some of the nightmare, but ultimately, the rest of the country and the world is watching this. So you can come to Tucson, you can come to Pima County, and you can commit horrific crimes, and so far get away with it. I think that that's one of the things that we're concerned about, especially given how close we are to Mexico with the cartels and the gangs. This is going to be bigger than Mrs. Guthrie. Of course, we want to focus on finding her first. But the point is, the rest of us are going to have to live with what the rest of the world has seen in this case. And I think that that's the most horrifying for a lot of us here, in addition to just the Guthrie family's pain.
Yeah, I want to get back to the cartel angle in just a minute. But Jonathan, when I look at the map and your 2 hour theory, It's not, there are a number of law enforcement jurisdictions here. There's state police, there's Phoenix police, Marana police, Border Patrol, Tucson police. It's not that we're just dealing with the Pima County Sheriff's Department working with the FBI. I mean, if she was taken on any one of these highways, freeways, they're crossing a number of jurisdictions in law enforcement. So what do you think is happening with the communication between the Pima County Sheriff, which is allegedly leading this investigation, the FBI, and other law enforcement who is on the lookout for anything suspicious having to do with this case?
Well, there's certain things that law enforcement just does, and putting out information that to all the local law enforcement. I mean, I'm sure they all know about this. There's no way they couldn't know about it, and so they'll do their due diligence and they'll look in their areas. But with this sheriff's department, and typically in law enforcement, Katie, it is not the standard operating procedure for law enforcement to go from the last known place and determine how far they could have traveled, and then either notify or go to those locations and then start searching in. Law enforcement just doesn't do that. And I think this is another evolution that needs to happen, because if they would have done that immediately and said, okay, let's go and set up a perimeter way out here and then start moving in to see if there's anybody that saw anything, that would be very helpful. But law enforcement does not evolve. And obviously this sheriff is stuck in yesteryear and has not evolved either in the way that he does things.
Yeah, Brian, this issue of the cartel keeps coming up, which is a natural question to ask. Southern Arizona, many parts of it have been run by the cartels for many, many years. There's a big question about whether Nancy was taken to Mexico. The Mexican authorities say that they have nothing so far to offer the FBI in terms of information, at least publicly, about Nancy's case. What are you thinking about tonight when it comes to the cartel angle? I've always said that, you know, they're businessmen. They don't want this much attention, and this would get them a lot of unwanted attention, but you never know.
Yeah, look, historically, you would be correct. The cartel leaders of old, the past 10, 20 years, were certainly much more focused on exactly what you just said. However, over the past 10 years, some of the grandsons, the younger men, have taken over, and they don't think as rationally as you and I might. And I think that we've seen that from an intel perspective in terms of inside of Mexico, targeting lots of different folks down there. I know my colleagues at the CIA have focused on this cartel angle and what they're doing down there. They find these guys to be bonkers, ripping out the beating hearts of their opponent cartel members. So these guys aren't rational. And I know, I can tell you with high confidence, that the cartels and the gangs, the Mexican gangs, live in Tucson, and they live in Catalina foothills. So I think it would be silly to just dismiss this idea that the cartels or the gangs were somehow involved or aware, and you always get rogue elements. I think that is something that the FBI is looking into. In fact, I know that Director Patel went to one of the reservations when he was here a couple of weeks ago, talking about a number of things to include this case. So I think that the Bureau is on this, and I think that my CIA colleagues are working the Mexico angle as well. I know they are. So, you know, God willing, we're going to find her, but the cartels and the gangs are a big deal.
Well, I think that's another separate question for Sheriff Nanos about why the cartels have been able to gain such a foothold in his county. Jonathan Gilliam and Brian Dean Wright, thank you so much for your expertise. And we hope that we can find Nancy soon and that she is safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.